Hey everybody, it's Doug here, Doug Mystic Guy on Board Game Geek. Just welcoming you to another game video. Today I wanted to look at what has become one of my favorite, I would say filler game, but almost not. It's just a good game, and I'll tell you why I don't think it's just a filler game as we go. But anyway, I want to talk about Splendor. It's a new game by Mark Andre, produced by Space Cowboys, and it's amazingly elegant and fun. I didn't have many expectations for it. I read that people were enjoying it, but it looked so simple. I was like, it'll be okay. But wow, it's just great. So the first time I took it to my game group and we sat around the table to play it, we were playing it in preparation for something else. We ended up playing it I think 7 or 8 times in a row, and that was we didn't ever get to the other game. So that's a pretty cool thing. But anyway, I'm going to unbox this with you, show you the insert and the components, and then I'm going to show you what it looks like set up, and go over the turn order with you, show you how to play. I'm not going to do a playthrough of this. It's simple enough. Once you see it, you'll get it. And you already know my thoughts, so not much point in reviewing it afterwards, but I will talk a little further about it. Because there are some things that I think, well, maybe you could do a little differently that might extend some of the gameplay. But anyway, let's take a look. So here's one of the first things I really dug about this game. So the rule book, of course, when you see the rules, you're going to go, wow, that's it, just a 2-sheeter, that's all it needs. But the box insert, absolutely fantastic. It holds everything very nicely. If you see that, you got these big, heavy, almost like poker chip style tokens. They each have their own tray, and they fit in perfectly into the tray. You see that I got my 3 decks of cards. You don't even have to bundle them together. They have a slot for each one. Plus the noble tiles all fit neatly in their space right here. So kudos to Space Cowboys for doing a good insert. To me, a game's kind of incomplete if there's a lot of components and it doesn't have a good insert, or it doesn't provide like baggies or something to put the different components in. This is one of the better inserts I've seen for a game, because it holds in everything even if you turn it upside down. It's great. So anyway, that said, I'm going to go ahead and set up the game as if we're going to be playing with 4 players, and I'll show you what that's like. Alright guys, so here is a 4-player game of Splendor set up and ready to go. A couple things you'll note is across the top are 5 noble tiles. Those are, and I'll explain the anatomy on each of the cards as well. As you also see then 3 decks on the left hand side and 4 cards revealed from each of those 3 decks. And then to your right here I have all of the gem tokens, including the yellow gold tokens. So a couple things of a quick note. The cards actually help you identify the card values. They go up in value and cost. So the little dot here on the green-backed 1-dot cards are like mines and your starting cards that are going to get you usually a resource but not any victory points. The goal of the game is to get 15 victory points, and we'll talk about that as we go, but that's basically the root of the game, and I'll tell you how you get those. The level 2 deck is merchants, caravans, things of that nature. They tend to give you more victory points and a resource, but are also more costly. And then up here you have the big resources, the buildings that provide you with a resource as well, but also are very costly and give you more victory points. And then the nobles up on top, which is ultimately part of the game. You're trying to please these nobles so that they can, so that you can acquire them their loyalty or admiration or whatever, and score the victory points that are on those. So let's talk about a card anatomy, and before we go over the order of play. So here we have a level 2 card, one of the middle cards here, with the yellow back and the 2 dots right there. And you'll see a couple of things on this card. So right along here, the 3, 2, and the 3, is the cost required to purchase this card and put it into play on in your play area or tableau. And so you would need 3 white gems or diamonds, and I don't know what each of the gems specifically is, 2 green gems and 3, I don't know, sapphires and rubies, I believe, 2 green gems and 3 red gems. Now, what does this give you when you play it into your tableau? It's going to give you a resource, so a permanent green gem will be available to you when you're purchasing additional cards, and I'll show you what that looks like. And then this one is also worth 1 of the 15 victory points that you need to win the game. So you can see if you're stocking up on low-end cards, you're going to need an awful lot of them to get to 15 to get to 15 victory points. Now some are worth more, but they also have a higher cost. So for example, this one right next to it, which is also a yellow middle card, it provides you with a diamond as a resource, but it costs 6 diamonds and it gives you 3 victory points. Now you're probably saying, man, 6 diamonds, that's a lot. Well, you have the tokens, the gem tokens, which you can spend. They're one-time expenditures. And then you also have the resources that are on the card that allow you to permanently have that single unit of that resource available to you. So that's the anatomy of the basic cards, and as you can see, they go up in both value and cost. This one costs 7 blue gems and 3 green gems. It still only gives you 1 green gem as a resource, but it's worth 5 victory points, so 130 your victory points on 1 card. And then more importantly are the nobles. Now the nobles are a little different. As soon as during your turn, or as soon as you meet the conditions for these nobles, you can see this one requires 3 green, 3 blue, and 3 red gems, and this requirement is only from the cards. You cannot meet this requirement by using the gem tokens. Then you will automatically, but if you do have cards that represent this, you automatically receive the favor of this noble, which gains you 3 victory points. You can see that in a 4-player game there are 5 nobles. That will go down based on the number of players. A 2-player game, I think, only has 3. I think it's just 1 more per player, if I'm not mistaken. I haven't played less than a 4-player game yet, so yeah, you're going to have 3 nobles in a 2-player game and 4 nobles in a 3-player game. So it's pretty straightforward. Now, when you're purchasing cards, initially you're not going to have anything in your hand. So what you're going to start off doing is collecting these gem tokens. I believe there's 7. Yeah, but there's enough tokens to go around. Trust me, managing how many tokens you have is absolutely critical in the game. So, and then also you have the yellow ones that way up at the top there, which are the gold tokens. Those are wild. You don't collect those in the same fashion. But now that you have an idea of the anatomy of the cards, we're going to talk about the order of gameplay, and I'll show you how a turn works. So, if you're the current player, you're going to have a number of options, and I'm going to outline each one of those options for you as we go. So let's start with the gathering of resources. One of the actions that you can do on your turn is gather resources through these tokens, these very heavy, awesomely made gem tokens. Components are awesome quality. Now, what you can do, you have a choice. You can either collect 1 from 3 different stacks, so I could do 3 total that look like this, 1 blue, 1 green, and 1 black, or you can collect 2 of the same resource. So if, for instance, I could collect 2 of these green gems, as long as there are 4 total or more in the stack. So those are my 2 options for collecting gems. Now, you cannot collect gold in this fashion. Gold is separate, and it's managed differently. So you can see that the gold, I'll show you how that works in one of the next actions, because I'll show that action next. So if I were to say on my turn, I'm going to collect gems, I'm going to say, well, what do I want to buy on the board? Well, I have a number of solutions that I could go for, but let's just say, for the sake of argument, I want to get this diamond mine. You see that I need 2 blue and 2 black gems. Now, in the beginning of the game, obviously I'm not going to have those. So I could say, well, if I'm the first player, I could grab 2 right up of one of them. I can probably get the others as we go, and then we'll work through that. Now, there's also, if you look at this green gem, it requires 2 black, 1 red, 1 blue, and 1 white. So if for some reason, let's say I was collecting towards this one, but someone got it before me, I still have an option. For instance, this 2 right here will still benefit me when trying to get this one, right? So you gotta look ahead and plan your strategies very carefully. Heck, the two black gems would even help me get this one. So you can't go wrong there. So let's just assume, like, let's say that in this case I took the two black gems. That would be my turn, and it would pass to the next player. Now, let's talk about the next two actions, which have to do with buying cards. So I've collected my two blue gems and my two black gems over the course of maybe 2 turns or 3, and I'm ready to purchase something. So I have a couple choices. Now, I can flat out buy the card for the cost. Let's say I'm prepared to spend the 2 and the 2. I return my 2 gemstones, I take this card, and I put it in my tableau in front of me. I now have, this one gave me no victory points, but it did give me a permanent diamond resource to purchase additional cards with. So I would expend my tokens, my black tokens, and my blue tokens, and I would buy that card, putting it in front of me. That is one of the other actions, is buying a card. Now, you can buy a card from any row at any time as long as you can afford it. If I had enough resources in front of me, which I would probably rarely ever be able to do with purely the gemstone tokens, I could buy even one of those top blue cards that are quite expensive. As you can see, let me go just scroll up to show those to you. You can see that some of those have costs of 7 on them. That's virtually impossible to get. In fact, you'd have to have all the gemstones to be able to. You'd have to have every blue gem to be able to spend 7 from your gemstones. So you need cards to support that. So, for instance, I would need a card with a blue diamond on it. That would help me offset that cost by 1. That would be for any card purchase that I want that requires a blue stone. It would count for one of them. So that's how you purchase a card. You simply spend the resources. Now there's another way, and I'll show you what that looks like if you're buying the resources differently. So let's say in this case that it's my turn, and I want to purchase a card in my tableau. My area in front of me looks like this. Okay, I have a blue gem as a resource. I have 1 blue gem token, and I have 2 black tokens. And I say, I really want to purchase that diamond mine. Now I can do that because I have 2 blue represented by this and by this. Now this does not go away, but I still have to spend this one in purchasing the card. So I would spend this, and of course I don't have any of the dark brown black gems to support me, so I'd have to spend those as well. And I would then be able to take that card and put it in my tableau in addition, which now gives me a permanent diamond resource and a permanent blue resource, or whatever jewel that is. So that you can see, you start to build out the ability to purchase bigger cards through cards. And remember, you can only acquire nobles by the use of these cards, not by the tokens that you would be able to collect and spend. I think the easiest way to think about this is permanent resource, and the tokens are temporary one-time resources. And you'll need to mix both, and you really have to plan out ahead of time how you're going to do that. But you can see the simplicity and the elegance of the game. Goes very quickly. Now let's go on to the next type of action you can do with the cards. So revisiting this diamond mine again, let's say it's my turn and I don't have enough resources to buy the diamond mine, and I'm pretty sure that my neighbor Bob is going to want that. Well, there is something I can do. I can do something that's called putting a card in reserve. So I can take this card and put it into my hand. Okay, now I can only have 3 cards in reserve at any given time, and when I do that, I get to take a wild resource, which is a gold, as long as one is available in the resource pool. Now, I could still take this action if there were no gold. I just wouldn't get the wild resource. Now, these are very valuable because they are wild. They represent anything you want them to be as far as the expenditure of a gemstone is concerned. Again, they do not count toward the acquiring of the nobles, but they do count as any other gemstone when acquiring a card. So I could take that and put it in reserve, and that would be, I would have my hand right now of 1 special card. I would deny Bob the ability to get the diamond mine, and I would be able to build toward paying it. Now, let's say I had this in my hand already, and it came back to my turn, and I had the resources to build it. Well, then my turn would be not drawing a card from the row of cards, but rather to build this one, and that would be my turn completely as well. So I could take this card out of my hand, pay for it in the same fashion as I would any other card, and place it down in my player area, and that would give me again the permanent diamond resource in my my array of cards. And no one can ever take these cards from you. Once you've played them out of your hand, then it's yours. Now, one thing is, whenever I do play, let's say I did play this diamond, I would immediately take a new card and replace it with a card there. Now, if if the person next to me said, hey, that's even better for me, heck, sometimes you end up trying to keep somebody from getting something and you play out something that's even better for them. But that's the way it goes. And so initially you're going to be wanting to buy these lower cost cards and build up a resource pool, an engine of different gemstones based on what you're trying to accomplish. Now, when I say trying to accomplish, you're probably saying, well, what the heck, how do you know what you're trying to accomplish at the beginning of the game? Well, it goes back to the nobles. So basically, what I've shown you so far is collecting gemstones. You can, again, I'll just cover the basics. You can collect 3 separate types of gemstones, not gold. Gold is a special resource. Or you can collect 2 of one type of gemstone as long as there are 4 in the stack. Meaning 4 of the same color in the stack. Then you can take 2. Now, you can also purchase a card by paying its costs in a combination of permanent resources in your play area and gemstones. Or you can reserve a card, putting the card into a hand. You can have a maximum of 3, and you can take a gold wild resource as well if one is available. So you're going to continue to do that. And you notice that some of the basic cards do even give you victory points. And of course they're going to cost a little more, be a little tougher to get. This one requires 4 of the brown-black gemstones. I say brown-black because it looks to me like the chip is black, but the gemstone itself is brown. And it's not even a quibble. It's just I just want to make sure it's clear for you. Now, when you lay out the nobles up on top, there are more nobles than you lay out. You're going to lay out 5, but as you can see, I have 4 more in the pool. Some of them you'll recognize as famous individuals from the era. Some you won't, but I think they all are. And so now let's talk about what happens when you acquire a noble. So that's how you gain cards. You can also, again, have only 3 in reserve. And you're going to build out a tableau in front of you. Alright, so now looking at the nobles up on top, now, as I said, as soon as you meet the requirements in your tableau, you can acquire one of the nobles. So I'm going to show you what that would look like in game terms as far as what my player space would look like to gain some of these cards. Okay, so let's say that my player space looks like this. You can see I have 4 of the brown gemstones in front of me, equaling 2, 3, 4, 5 victory points. I also have 1, 2, 3, 4 diamonds in front of me, equaling another 5 victory points. So I have 2 blue gems, with 1 equaling 1 victory point. So you can see I have 11 victory points right now. I wouldn't need that many more to win. But here's the cool part. Now, let's say on this turn, I actually placed this one. I bought this somehow with gemstones. Bought this 3 green, spent the 3 green and acquired this brown gemstone. Now I could immediately buy or acquire, because I placed that down, one of the nobles, and I'll show you which one that is. So you can see up there the lady here, the 3, they're all worth 3 points, is 4 and 4. So once I acquired that 4th brown gemstone, I met the requirement for this noble. Now here's the cool part. You can see that the noble next door, actually the 2 nobles next door to her, also require white and brown black gems that I've already met the conditions for, because I already have 4 of each of those. So all I would need is the 3 the 3 red gems now, in one case. Well, in this middle one, I would need 3 red gems to get that one. And sometimes you can set up where you can do a cascade. I got one, I couldn't believe people let me do it, but I actually managed to pick up 2 nobles in one turn and another one the next turn to win the game. And you can see that once you've gotten to this level, you don't need that many points. I already had 11 points of the 15 just in my play area based on the cards I was able to acquire. And then adding a 3 from that noble puts me at 14, 1 point away from winning. All I need is a 1 point card. Now, obviously, everybody's playing against me, and they might be in the same condition as far as how close they are to victory. Now, that's really basically those are the rules. So again, you're going to acquire those nobles on your turn as soon as you meet the conditions. You do not have to purchase the noble or take an extra action to acquire the noble. It's automatic. And so those are very valuable because you can end up picking up multiple victory points off of the one turn. So like, let's say for instance, instead of having this 1 diamond in play, I had this one here, this diamond, which is worth 4 victory points instead. Well, if I had that in my tableau, that would put me at acquiring this noble at the same time in the tableau that I showed you would have won me the game just in that one turn. And so you can see now. People can obviously see this. Everything's turned up now, except for your cards that you put in reserve. Now, the cards that you put in reserve, you can put face down, even if you took them from the player space. And one thing I forgot to mention is you can take a card at random from one of the decks without looking at it. Well, you draw it, and you can look at it after you draw it, and a gold piece as a reserve card as well. So if you don't see anything in the player area that you like, you can take one off the top of the deck. That's the only random factor in the entire game. You're rolling the dice to see what you get. Like I can go, I think I'm just going to take one of these blue ones and see what happens. Well, man, I better get a lot of green gems. Now this might be completely useless to me, and unfortunately there's no way to discard your cards in reserve. You have to hold on to them. So if you have 3 cards in reserve that don't do you any good, well, you're kind of out of luck there, and your reserve cards are not going to be helpful to you. So again, this is going to go around in turn order, in normal clockwise turn order across the players, until one person has met the victory conditions on their turn of 15 points, and that player will win the game. So I think that's a pretty good overview. Game is incredibly simple, but man, it's so fun. Someone likened it to Dominion in the sense that once you get playing, you can just keep playing over and over again. Yet what I like about this game is it does not have the fiddliness of Dominion, where you can see people chain all these weird cards together and spend like 10 minutes, 5 minutes just getting through their hand because they've managed to put this massive chain of cards together, right? So it doesn't have that like a dragging on aspect of the game, but it certainly has the feel of where you're trying to build this engine that acquires you the resources that you need. And it's got some pretty intense moments where you see that someone else is very close to winning and you are too, or there might be 2 people already in front of you that look like they're about to win, and you know you can pull it off with one good round, and it gets pretty intense. Not intense in the same way as some other games, but still, excellent game. Now, keep in mind that this whole game with the 15 points only takes about 30 minutes, and I can promise you that once you've played it about 3 or 4 times, unless you have somebody that is just really burdened by paralysis analysis, or analysis paralysis rather, it's going to go fairly quickly. And usually, by the time we got to that one day, and other times I've played it with people who've played it already, once you get to about your 5th playthrough or something, if everybody's in that same boat where they've all played it a few times, it won't take you more than, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes at best to play a game of Splendor. Now, the one thing I'll tell you, and now I'm going to get on to some, so now you know how to play. I think that's pretty clear. I hope that that helped you, and I'm going to tell you that it is an excellent game. So, just to recap the actions you can take. You can collect 3 gemstones of a different type, not including gold. You can collect 2 of the same type as long as there are 4 in the pool, and the actual gemstone stack that you can take. You can purchase a card for the cost and put it in your tableau. You can also take a card and put it in reserve, also taking a wild card gold piece that can be used as any resource if there are some available. If there are not, you can still take the reserve card. You can also take a random reserve card from a stack of the face down cards and test your luck. You would also still get the gold coin during that process. And you need to use a combination of, you can use a combination of the tokens and and permanent resource cards to buy cards. For the nobles, which will happen automatically as soon as you meet the conditions, you cannot use your tokens to purchase the nobles. They have to be, or to acquire the nobles rather, they have to be made up of cards in your play area and meet those conditions. And the victory points are the upper left-hand corner. You need 15 to win. I think that's the summary of a lifetime right there. That's about all you need to know to play the game. Go in turn order, go in turn order clockwise. Pick who you want to be first player. You can do it randomly, or there's some suggestions in the book. But either way, that is Splendor. So let me talk to you about my final thoughts. Okay, so pretty simple game. One of the things that I will say, and this was the only thing I thought was a little bit of a downside to the game. These cards here, these big point cards, are meant to be fairly uncommon in your hand, but we went through a couple of games where no one bought any of them because they're hard to get to. They take a lot of resources, and heck, even with 1 and 2 point cards, if you are gathering enough card resources to purchase those, then you can purchase the 1 and 2 point cards much more easily and get up to the point where you're getting nobles, which are at least worth 3 points. Every once in a while, someone would buy a card out of that stack. They're hard to get to. I would kind of like to see more of those be in play, and I guess you could do that by perhaps extending the point value, maybe making it 20 or 25. I don't know how that would affect the game, other than make it longer, but maybe you could see some of those bigger cards come out. I don't know, maybe that's the intention of the gameplay, is to not have a lot of those out, maybe one or two in a game. But anyway, we just didn't see those coming out very often, especially since there are some in the, you can see there are 2.1s in this middle deck. There are also some that are I think they're all 1 and 2 points, but you can make it up pretty quickly when you have the nobles in. So again, we didn't see a lot of those 4 and 5 and the top cards come out, but that's the only thing I'd say is, I don't know, I don't even know if it's a negative, it's just an observation. Otherwise, we enjoyed this game tremendously, and I can guarantee you that when I play at our next session, we'll be playing at least a game or two of it until we burn out on it, which is typically our way of doing things. So anyway, that is Splendor, and I think I would give it a big thumbs up for anybody that likes little strategy games. Like I said, I would call it a filler game, with the exception of the fact that it's really not. It can be used in that capacity, but I can tell you, sometimes you're sitting there trying to plan 3 and 4 moves ahead, and you have to put a bit of thought. Even though the game is quick, you have to put a bit of thought process into it. The game is quick because your turn consists of one simple action, not because you're, and that whole time, which is cool, because I hate games that you're basically sitting there twiddling your thumbs waiting for the next player to go. That whole time you are planning ahead and trying to figure out, so while other players are going, you're watching what they're buying, you're trying to determine what your next best move is before it even gets to you. And so it's consuming your brain power even when you're just waiting for your turn, which is ideal. That's the way a game should be. Or, you know, games where you're taking turns in a quick enough fashion. It's just one action, so it goes very quick. Highly recommend Splendor. If you don't have it in your collection, I would put it in your collection. It's certainly worthwhile. Again, I'm not going to do a playthrough of this. Obviously, the game sequence is fairly straightforward and simple. So we played it a bunch and just absolutely loved it. So by all means, highly recommended. Get Splendor. It's well worth it. The components are great. The insert to the game is great. It's simple enough that you can pull in non-gamers or new gamers, and they'll get it and enjoy it. But it's challenging enough for existing gamers and long-term hobbyists to really enjoy the gameplay. So thanks everyone. I hope you enjoyed that. It's just going to be a quick little video, and I will see you next time.